Hey, hey everybody, how's it going? Sorry that I'm due to unforeseen. When I say unforeseen circumstances, due to my own being a dumbass, I am late, and please excuse me for that. 5:30, and let's see, we're up to four people already. Chevy Kunkel, what's going on? Hey, what's going on? Sorry, like I said, I'm sorry I'm late. If anybody knows, hey, what's up, Tito? If anybody knows that last night I did the extremely long live stream with Ken from Scotch Down Under and a bunch of other people. Shane Long, some guys from Australia, some of the guys that are on the Scotch Down Under with them, and just having a good old time, just BSing and celebrating their Scotch Down Under's 1 year anniversary on YouTube. And it was awesome. It was great. It was a great freaking time. So then the thing is that I didn't get done streaming with him until, hey, Birdman, I didn't get done streaming with him until the 12 hour mark. 13 hours, excuse me. It was 10 a.m. here this morning when I finally tried to go to bed. So basically, from what I gather, yeah, he went like almost 20 hours, somewhere around there. I got to go back and look to see exactly how long it did go. But he's a freaking madman. But Ko-En, if anybody knows him from the chats, Ko-En was also he was there watching it. He was there pretty much. He was there before I was and stayed the whole time. So yeah, he ended up going. I left at the 13-hour mark because I needed to at least get some sleep. And unfortunately, I woke up, even though I put on alarms, I woke up really late. So that's why I'm a half hour late on this, and I apologize to everybody that might have actually been anticipating me coming on. I guess I hadn't been told or not, but I had put out a link in my video the other day, the shout out video at the bottom for a YouTube playlist for people to throw on some 80s music, 80s freaking metal music. So you can have like a community one. So you can do that at any point in time. I'll post a link again when I put this video up. It'll be in the description when I get done with it. So yeah, So hey Kyle, what's going on? The Drink Pro. Yeah. So yeah. It was great. Yeah, I didn't catch the very end of it, but we were. So last night, if anybody that's here doesn't know, hey, Whiskey Samurai, he didn't. Ken and Q-Ball started off doing. I didn't know it was going to be the freaking 12-hour that we had talked about the other night. It turned into the 12-hour, and then he says, "I'm just going to keep on going." And I said, I'm going to bed. I finally went to bed after 13 hours of being live with him. Okay. So he was, when I left there, I think I was on a total of just at the 10 and 10, between 10 and 10 and a half hours is the length I was on it. And then when I left, he was at just over 13 hours. And then I woke up to use the restroom a couple times and he was still on. And, Shane Long, who was on with us for a while, played some guitar. When he hit the 12-hour mark, he played Wish You Were Here on the guitar and stuff like that. All of a sudden, he's back on there. I wake up, Cheech Ardolino's on the freaking screen with them. He's talking to Whiskey Samurai. It's just like, go, dude, what are you doing? And realized that was the 18-hour mark. And then I went back to sleep. Bourbon just said that he was at like 20 hours and his kid found him on the floor. Okay. If that's the truth, if that's what happened, I'm going to have to see this, but, yeah. So the whole thing stemmed. Well, did say Ken does a lot of long, he calls them drams and dribble, where he just drinks, builds Lego stuff or whatever, and just talks about bullshit. And anybody wants to come on, he talks to him or whatever. So that's what it was all. That was the whole thing. That was what it was all about. But I thought that he was going to jump off right after we hit that 12-hour or 13-hour mark or whatever. Maybe he'd do an hour or two more, but like, yeah, it was freaking epic. And part of it stemmed from the other night on my live after Jason Calori, after Mash and Drum, I went ahead and decided at a point, because I was talking, Ken and me were talking about metal music. I decided at like a 4-hour point that screw it, I was going to go for another hour. And then I said, wait a second, how long is the longest Hot Buttery Rolls video? And then I found that it was like 6 hours and 10 minutes, somewhere around there. And I said, okay, then we're going to go beat that. So I went to like 6:15 and said, okay, I've done it. I'm done. Good, cool. Now Chris has got to come back and, Chris got to come back to do it, to beat me. We're never going to beat Scotch Down Under. He's actually says he's in the works, figuring out how he can do it. He wants to do a 24-hour stream. So yeah. So the guys, like I said, he's a madman. So let's see who else. Anybody else come in? So yeah, I got like 7 people. Kyle, Trevor, Tito, Bourbon, Whiskey Samurai. Good to see you guys. I still work completely off the StreamYard chat, so I might be missing something over with the YouTube chat, but right now I don't have a setup to where I can really watch the YouTube chat at the same time. Again, whatever decides to pop up on the YouTube screen on my television, I can see, but it's not really the exact same chat that's over on YouTube. Let's see. 19 hours and 50 minutes. The guy's a freaking madman. So basically, somebody wants to come on and talk about 80s metal. Let's do it. If you guys want to throw anything out there, questions to me about, the fact that I'm old as shit and I grew up in the 80s was like when I was in high school and stuff. But it has 80s music, especially hair metal, has a special place in my heart because that's what I grew up with. I'll always, no matter how much I love other metal bands, including freaking Arch Enemy and the Tattoos and stuff like that, the 80s will always have a special place in my heart, and I will always think, like I said in the description for this, it's the best era of metal because there's a lot of diversity today in metal. A lot of freaking different genres, blah, 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 and everything else. But it's more of everybody's trying to be, they're trying to be something special. They're going out of their way to be something special. And the way that they market themselves wrong. How do you like Streamwood? Oh, StreamYard. Okay, sorry. Drink Pro. Truthfully, I've never used OBS. I'm actually paying. This is the one I'm paying $49 a month, so I don't have to have all the freaking StreamYard crap on the screen, and I can do 1080 and everything else. So as a free service, it's still freaking great. Just that you have you got that damn ass duck in the corner and stuff like that. But then again, you can only have so many people on. If you're a person that wants to bring a bunch of people on, so like that, it's maybe not the greatest at the free level. With what I pay for, I can do 1080. The other, if you're not paying to 1080, then you only can do it at 720. But then again, it's still, I know people that do 720. It's still freaking a good enough quality for YouTube, because your phone, the God's honest truth is, your phone could have the most bitchin' screen on it and everything else. The resolution is going to be 720. It's just on a smaller screen, so you freaking really don't tell the difference. I mean, it's getting better with other phones because now YouTube's settings can go all the way up to 1440. So you can get a 4K, but you know what I'm talking about, guys. It's a little bit overrated. I keep on getting told that by Trev, he uses a combination, I guess, of OBS and Stream Elements. Now, Stream Elements, I looked at it. It's kind of geared more towards gamers, Twitch, stuff like that. But it can be, the overlays and everything else. It's a little bit more difficult to freaking navigate. I don't know what anybody else runs. I just know that I was told to try out StreamYard. I liked the free version because it was really easy. Once I decided what I was going to do with StreamYard, it literally, seriously, Kyle, it literally took me less than 15 minutes to set up my first live stream, to set up, to upload and videos and everything else. Hey, what's up, Cohen? Yeah, I'm awake. Yeah. So the other thing is too, is that like with this, you can bring up, it's rather easy just to go over and bring up people's comments and everything else. It tends to be a little bit harder in case really know OBS to be able to do things like that. Right. Like these when I set up my first stream, right, I set up banners, like Dan Shook can bite me. If you want to support the channel, tickers, you can follow me on Instagram. And now the one that I've been running, but I was late on and didn't keep up with my written word, which I feel very badly about, was that I was going to be, I go live every Saturday before Hot Buttery Rolls. And just so everybody knows ahead of time, if anybody watched Matt ADHD last night, I went ahead and told him that next week I would either go earlier or not go on at all. So I will let everybody know before the middle of the week what's going on with me once I know exactly what Matt's going to be doing on on Saturday. He's going to move ADHD next week to probably Saturday, depending on what Jason Calori, for Mash and Drum, and Dusty Dan will be able to do, because they're holding a Trooper. They're hoping to hold a Trooper Memorial fundraiser. Yeah, I don't have anything poured, but let's go this ginger ale, but to Trooper, to raise money for his family and stuff like that. So, but I guess I don't know who all is involved. Hopefully, if there's a spot open, I'll be able to just jump in there and say my. I should probably take the top of the screen. Say something or whatever. Help out in any way that I can. I didn't really know of him for a while until a few weeks ago when somebody said something about it, and I just started getting into following him a little bit. And my prayers and prayers go out to his family and everything else. And so, yeah, rest in peace. All right, I missed some comments, I guess. See, anyone drinking anything good? Well, obviously, I'm just drinking ginger ale right now. If you were Birdman, Killian can attest to this. I had a little bit. I had a few drinks last night. Popped open a few, broke the freaking seals on a few bottles. Yeah, it's the most truthfully, drinking bourbon, even at freaking 1 or 2 ounces at a time, it's the most I've ever drank when it comes to like freaking bourbons and stuff like that. Since I started doing this thing a year ago. So I was freaking, let's put it this way, I was getting ready to go to bed, and the reason I didn't go to bed at freaking like 9:30 was because I went ahead and made some food, because I stood up, started walking, and everything started spinning, and I said, I need more water, more food. Came back and watched Ken for a little bit longer, and then freaking finally went ahead and went to bed. So I might not be drinking a whole bunch on this stream. I'll end up drinking on freaking Hot Buttery Rolls or whatever, but I might have a dram probably before the end of it. So let's see. Yeah, there you go. Drink a lot of water, and you don't need to be drinking alcohol today. Yeah, that's the plan. So I know that I'll have at least one drink with freaking Chris, and the one I'll probably have one drink with me also. At the end when everybody said when everybody says their goodbyes and see you next week and all our shit. I don't know. It's just kind of like feels like almost a tradition that you not say necessarily have to do it, but it's not going to hurt me to pour a half an ounce or something like that and just one little sip to say say slancha. But let's see. Let's go ahead and so this and then just a heads up. Thank you to everybody that helped me get over 400 on Instagram this week, and everybody that helped me get over 100 officially, to where it actually stuck on the analytics this week on Instagram. I mean, on YouTube. So let's see what do we got here. What are we at right now? We are at. Okay, we're at something that's not YouTube Studio is not working. Okay, last time I checked earlier in the day, it was 117. So I was getting close to that 120 mark. I don't know why this just blew out. Let me mess with this. I don't know why that all of a sudden just blew out like that. Let's go ahead and do this. That'll help out a little bit. There we go. That should help out a little bit. I should have set that up right the first time, but then you wouldn't have seen the beauty that is my Iron Maiden shirt. This Iron Maiden shirt is from Battle of San Bernardino, 2013. This is actually when I got back into going to concerts, and that was a blessing and a curse, because it turned into what now is my whiskey thing too. Been to hundreds of concerts between 2013 and 2000 and the pandemic. So let's see. Okay, so Cohen, I'm drinking fresh pressed carrot juice with ginger juice and some cinnamon powder. Okay. I'm not a fan of carrots, so that would never happen to me. Yeah, you're a Californian, you know it. No, Cohen was great. He one of these days he'll be live on a stream, even if it's in the veil of darkness, so that nobody sees his face or whatever. But he was in the chat the whole time last night before I even got on there. It was freaking great. Richie Z, thanks. Ernie Brubaker, thank you. We're up to 11 people now. Thanks for jumping on, guys. Yeah, so like I just telling everybody, I apologize for going on and being a half hour later. I was on with Ken from Scotch Down Under until 10 o'clock this morning, Pacific Coast time. And yeah, it was definitely interesting, a lot of fun. Cohen was there. Like I said, he was there from the beginning until he was still there. He left right before I did. So he was there for like 13. He was there for like 12 and a half of the 13 hours before I left. So yeah, so he knows what I'm. He didn't drink as much because he only has, he says he only has a few drinks over that amount of time. But yeah, I was tired as hell. But yeah, I appreciate everybody that's here and everything else. Go ahead and throw up there like whatever you're drinking. If I missed it, I'm sorry. But yeah, so and then there's a few other things that really cool stuff happened. Tito put up his first video on my Bayesian exploration. If you haven't seen it, you know what? Leave this live and watch it and come back. That's how much I like the video, and I think that why is my camera has been crazy. This is Canon, and this thing has been crazy hunting. It's really weird. Just all of a sudden. But so please forgive me for that one. I'll get it fixed eventually. So this live ended up with like almost no prep. I kind of did the thumbnail and everything else literally like at 5 o'clock when I was supposed to be going on. And yeah. So excuse me for the shit show. But anybody that wants to come on and talk to me, have anything they want to talk about, I'm here to talk about, I like metal music. I like whiskey. Right now I'm kind of getting back from the whiskey, but I have no problem talking about the 80s music and stuff like that. If you ever get a chance and on Spotify, you can look up my name, just look up Stanley Wagner. All my playlists are public, and it covers metal, covers all kinds of music. But if you look, a lot of them are just metal, and a lot of them are actually playlists from concerts I went to that I went ahead and made into playlist set lists from concerts that I made into playlists, so people that didn't get to go to the concert would be able to just go through what the songs were played at the concert in the order they were played, blah blah blah, whatever. But like my favorite one is my favorite playlist on Spotify is Hair Metal 101, 80s and 90s, 80s and early 90s grunge, just prior, no Pearl Jam, no Soundgarden, none of that stuff. But people don't realize that even though Priest and Maiden and all that stuff in the early 80s and stuff like that were huge in the huge metal scene, and then all of a sudden Metallica and those guys coming in the earlier part of the 80s and the mid 80s, but not really, they weren't really that big at that time. At that time, it was more towards the anti-hair metal era, which is literally, people don't realize, is actually kind of towards the end of the 80s. 86 to 89 was the big heyday of it, and then freaking going into the 90s, grunge didn't kill it. Whoever wants to argue the point, grunge did not kill hair metal or kill metal at the time, because bands outside of hair metal, the Ozzy Osbournes, even though Bark at the Moon, I'm sorry, is a hair metal album, but not say Bark at the Moon, I'm sorry, Ultimate Sin, forgive me for that one, but Ultimate Sin was a hair metal album, sorry, there's no way, but it was still good, but the bands like Metallica's, the Anthrax, and stuff like that, those are the bands you see today that are still around playing and people are going to watch them, stuff like that. How, other than like say a Poison and a Def Leppard, which I don't consider to be necessarily hair metal, but I've seen like they go out on tour and they still sell out stuff in arenas and stuff like that. So outside of those guys, what happened to everybody else in hair metal other than playing at freaking festivals in Oklahoma and freaking state fairs, maybe a bar here and there. So those are the hair metal bands like, okay, Black and Blue, freaking Takedo, even Autograph, which I freaking turn up the radio and My Girlfriend's Boyfriend Isn't Me. If anybody knows anything about Autograph, those are freaking great. I mean, and if you ever listened to them, those are great freaking songs. And if hair metal made a comeback over the past few years, I'd say a good 7 years. I'll say 5 to 7 years. The style of the hair metal, the metal music and stuff like that, it's made its way kind of back into the mainstream because of one band that I love to death. They're freaking great, and they're great. They're good, freaking good people. And if you saw them when they weren't Steel Panther, you would never recognize them. But Steel Panther, everybody says, "Oh, they're so disgusting." Da da da. If you listen to hair metal, if you listen to Poison, if you listen to freaking Michael Monroe, Tokyo Hotel, if you listen to freaking freaking Black and Blue, freaking Black and Blue, Great White, a lot of these bands, guess what Steel Panther did? They took exactly what they wanted to say in the 80s and couldn't, and said, we're going to say it anyway. And now they're freaking huge. And so all the innuendos in the music in the 80s, Steel Panther throws out there right off the bat. Okay, this is starting to really freaking annoy me. But so that's why I like Steel Panther. But you got, Poison, Dokken, Crocus. Crocus, definitely easily one of the freaking most underrated bands of the 80s. Everybody knows remake of Ballroom Blitz, and the original one by Sweet is still the best one. Sorry, I love Crocus's version, and I love was it Wayne's World to Tia Carrera's version? I like that one also, but the sweet version of Ballroom Blitz is freaking always going to be the best, along with Little Willie. If anybody knows that song, that's freaking. But that's for another day. But Midnight Maniac was the one that kind of brought him into the mainstream, even though a lot of people knew who they were already because of songs like Eat the Rich and Screaming in the Night. Shit, I just talked about this the other day. Screaming in the Night's literally one of the most underrated freaking songs of the 80s when it comes to like power ballads, even though it wasn't one of the power ballad songs. It was just prior to that whole arena rock, Def Leppard, freaking Love Bites and stuff like that. But yeah, so let's see. Okay, now you're right, Cohen. Motley Crue is still big, but that's what I was saying is that out of all the hair, what considered to be the hair metal bands, stuff like that, Motley Crue might be the one quote unquote hair metal band, and truthfully, their glam band not real. It's okay. It's a fine line between hair metal and glam. Poison started out glam and became hair metal. And then speaking of my New York, I have to shout out the New York Dolls because those are the original glam. And the original glam rockers my original glam rockers, people, look at other things in the earlier 70s and stuff like that. But shout out to New York Dolls, because I don't think if it wasn't for the New York Dolls, Tokyo Hotel, Michael Monroe, Poison, even Motley Crue in the earlier days, that they may not have had that look, that Sunset Strip freaking look that made that made what started hair metal and glam metal and stuff like that. But like the Sunset Strip bands, London, freaking Motley Crue, Poison. I mean, Poison. I heard them on a freaking. Someone handed me a freaking pirated tape of "Look What the Cat Dragged In." When they did the album live at Whiskey A Go Go. I don't remember who they opened up for. And somebody just put it when I was in my car. I was driving some people around. I said, hey, put this in. And I heard it for the first time. And I was like, what the hell is this? And they showed me what the album cover was supposed to look like. And I was like, okay, those, like everybody else says, those girls. No, I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. But I already knew like Michael Monroe, which is kind of like the archetype for Poison at the time. So, but like I said, and Crocus, like I said, it's for they're in freaking Switzerland, but they didn't. They're actually still really really big in a lot of other places, but not necessarily here in the States. In case you're an old person, you're older like me, and some of the people that are in the chat. But yeah, Crocus, freaking. Early Exodus. That's the other thing too, is that I wasn't one of the. I was the kid. That was the kid at school that was the nerdy guy. But on his peachy folder, he had like Kiss, Anthrax, Poison, Priest. I mean, basically anything that was metal was it was scribbled on my freaking outsides of my books and everything else. And I got some hate because you had the guys that were that Iron Maiden, new wave of British heavy metal, freaking Priest, blah, 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 and everything else. And that other stuff is crap and whatever. And then I got people that were the whole glam metal end of it, the punk and everything else, telling me how can you like this, blah, 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 whatever. And then, yeah, Cohen's freaking, he's like checking me here, but like freaking, Dawkins and Rat. To this, like the Doc, a couple years ago, Dawkins had a pretty decent run where they were playing a lot of venues here in California, and they had a pretty decent tour of smaller venues that they had. And then, and this is just, I was gonna say 3 years ago. And then Don Dawkins' voice really, really got bad, kind of like along the lines of Vince Neil's voice and freaking Lizzie Borden's voice and stuff like that. And sorry to say, he'll probably find me and punch me in the face because that's just how that's how I perceive him, as Sebastian Bach's voice, freaking crack. Just I seen him 2 years ago, and he still has some. I mean, his chops are still good to a point, but he pushes weight. He's getting to that point too. I think Joe Elliott from who I also saw. I've seen Poison. I just saw Tesla. Not too long ago before the pandemic. Those guys they still sound freaking great, and they still put on a good show. So Daniel, let's see what Daniel has to say here. Oh, wrong one. Slayer wore makeup in 82, 83 in LA in the same era. Yeah, Cohen knows like a lot. People don't realize that like some of the things that Slayer was doing before they became Slayer. Um, everybody always gives Pantera a bunch of crap about being a hair metal band before they became Pantera. Well, guess what? There's a lot of things that people were before they became what they are. And, Post Malone was in a death metal band, freaking stuff like that, but guess what? He became famous and became, who he is from something completely different. But I remember being a fairly young kid and my older cousin trying to teach me about all this back in the late 80s. Yeah, that's how I got a lot of my stuff. My cousin Tim, if he does end up watching this, he's a huge Maiden fan, a huge Megadeth fan. Not really into the hair metal stuff and everything else too much. We have discussions about this literally all the time. When I go up there, I'd say 1 out of every 3 times I go up there, we end up in a discussion about freaking 80s metal and hair metal and stuff like that. And it's always fun to talk about that. So the biggest, so in the 80s, a bunch of stuff happened where some bands from the 70s start trying to do some, I'm going to say Kiss is going to be the biggest one. Decided that they were, I don't know why, but they're at a point where they needed to remove the makeup and change the complete look of the band and everything else after, I don't know, a tried and true freaking version of the band all the way prior to that. Ace Frehley left the band, and Bruce Kulick came in, and then you had Eric Carr. Eric Carr was the drummer initially at the time when "Lick It Up" came out, and that kind of changed the game for Kiss, because truthfully, and people can fight me on this all day long, that those Kiss albums, and I'm not going to say all of them through Revenge, but Lick It Up through Revenge, before they kind of started headed back to the makeup era and the, everything else. And then, they reunited and all that other stuff. Those are the best. To me, those are actually the best Kiss albums. They have more. I think it's not cookie cutter. It's not cookie cutter to the original Kiss. And I'm a huge Kiss fan, believe me. First band I ever got an album from. I love freaking Kiss. Ace Frehley especially. But freaking those albums prior to Lick It Up, including Unmasked, which was like Torpedo Girl and all that stuff, the disco album and Dynasty, that those albums, Lick It Up, Animalize, Hot in the Shade, Revenge. I'm probably missing. I think I'm missing another one in there. Don't stab me or cancel me for not remembering. But the song they had a little bit more to them than they had the same Kiss theme, as in like, let's put the X in sex. Which, if anybody's ever listened to any Kiss album, there's some song about freaking sex. Like Love Gun and all those good ones. But the fact that for some reason during that era, I loved Lick It Up, and I love freaking Let's Put the X in Sex and Hot in the Shade and God Gave Rock and Roll to You, which is which obviously is a cover, but I just think that was for me, it was my favorite era of Kiss. People don't agree with me, but everybody has their own taste. But let's see. Okay, so I think Cohen. I didn't realize that Clifton was going on. I thought he was going on earlier today. I missed. I thought that he was already on. If you decide you want to go over and watch Clifton's E.H. Taylor lineup, I won't hate you for it. I can understand. But remember, you can always watch his on the replay. But you can always watch mine on the replay too. So yeah, Richie Z, Wasp. Now, I never was a huge fan of Wasp. Blind in Texas I like the song. I don't know why I never really got into them. I think I got more into the Headless Children and that those later in the 80s and early 90s Wasp albums before, they disappeared off the face of the earth for a while. But Blackie Lawless is a great freaking frontman. But I never really got really heavy into freaking like Wasp and stuff. So that's the thing too, is that luckily for me, I have a couple of nephews. Now they're, they grew up with me listening to all the metal music, and they're huge fans of the metal music. And so like my nephew Jared is a huge Iron Maiden fan. So we've always got something to talk about if, we decide to talk to each other. But yeah, there was so much good music back in the 80s. That's why it's my favorite era of metal, because of just what was there. I mean, I've talked about hair metal and stuff like that, but you got to remember that's the rise of Metallica, Slayer, the LA thrash scene, the Bay Area thrash scene, the East Coast thrash scene, the East Coast being more punky, more punk rock oriented in their thrash. Then you had the Bay Area thrash, which for most of the time was more speed than thrash for a lot of bands. And then in LA, it was a speed. LA was speed. It was, really didn't become too thrash metal until some of the Bay Area bands started coming down and playing more in Hollywood, like Metallica, Exodus, Testament, and freaking Death Angel. Those guys, those are like there's other than so Big Four wise, those four bands started in the 80s, obviously, with freaking Megadeth, Metallica, Anthrax, and Slayer. Of the four, Anthrax is always gonna be my number one. That's why I even have tattoos of them on my arm. But it should have been more than a Big Four, because anybody that's into thrash metal, anybody that sees the influence of thrash metal knows that Overkill, and freaking Exodus, Death Angel, Testament especially. I mean, the New Order is probably one of the best freaking thrash metal albums. Freaking The Legacy, those albums. So I'm a huge Testament fan too, by the way. Even before Metallica and those, and then Metallica is freaking great, but we know how that went. I liked the growth that they went along with, and they didn't stick to one little lane. But I still like the fact that Overkill did. I still like the fact that Exodus did. And but let's see who else is on here. Anybody new? The Roop is on now. Nashville. Hey, good to see you, The Roop. And then Testament, freaking Chuck Billy, freaking phenomenal, awesome freaking voice. They can get them out. For some reason, every time I see Testament, it just seems like if Chuck Billy doesn't even have to say a word, a mosh pit freaking immediately starts, and boom, it's just going. It's just freaking great to be there and see stuff like that. Slayer is, I love Slayer. I mean, I do, but I don't think that my personal opinion is they're not the Big Four. They're great. Like I said, don't get me wrong, and I've seen them multiple times. I was there for the last concert, which was freaking awesome. But I think that compared to some of the other bands that, Forbidden, like Cohen just said, but there's other bands like that people didn't even look at, like Annihilator. They're from Canada. Oh, but Alice in Hell. If anybody gets a chance to go freaking check out that album and just listen to the song Alice in Hell. That's like crazy. It's crazy. It's so freaking awesome. And and those bands, the thrash metal bands and the non quote unquote hair metal bands, they're the ones that, led into the groups like Sanctuary and the groups like freaking Nevermore and some of the other bands in the 90s into the early 2000s that got big and stuff like that. But like I said, you had Crocuses, you had your Poisons. Let's see, Lita Ford. We can talk, she's fucking Lita Ford. And if you've ever met Lita, she's a freaking rock. She is a metal chick and doesn't pull any punches about the fact that she is. Yeah, see, so Richie Z's got like the insight. Like I've heard Blind Delusion and Trauma before, but I never is one of those ones where I kind of got into that whole. I kind of got into that whole freaking Metallica Megadeth thing for a while, and I missed out on some things. And I hope that someday that I get to have people tell me about the stuff that I did miss. This freaking hunting is killing me. So, but oh yeah, and then Vic. Okay, so yeah, you had the women. It was a very small group. Most of the women that were in rock, quote unquote, at the time, like Pat Benatar and Patti Smith from what's it called? I'm trying to think. It starts with the S. I'm trying to think. The Warrior. The song "The Warrior." Patti Smythe, excuse me. But freaking Scandal from Scandal, and then Quarter Flash and those bands where there was a lot of Jefferson Starship. There was a lot of females out there in the forefront. In metal, there was very few, and Vixen was one. Vixen was a great freaking band. This hunting is freaking. I'm gonna go crazy. So Vixen. Yeah, they're freaking great. I love living on Edge of a Broken Heart, freaking songs like that. You had Faster Pussycat. That's the other thing too, is that when people bands that get overlooked from the 80s, Faster Pussycat is one of those too. Faster Pussycat got completely overlooked because Tammy and then Ricky Rackman with the Cat House and stuff like that. It was more focused on their business than their bands. And freaking Faster Pussycat's great. Slip of the Tongue, Where There's a Whip, There's a Way. They were a little bit more, how do you say it? They were a little bit more racy than what was going to get played. It wasn't going to get played on the radio. Maybe KNAC late night, but you weren't going to hear it on regular radio like when you were hearing Poison, Look What the Cat Dragged In, Cry Tough, and stuff like that. Cinderella, which is another band that, Cinderella. That's another band that you have to follow to see the transition because things got put off to the wayside after Heartbreak Station. People don't realize the songs that are on Long Cold Winter, the whole blues, Tom Kiefer's freaking writing, his voice when he's not freaking doing that freaking stuff when he's just singing, took the last train out of my heart. Yeah, sorry for my voice, but yeah, so Cinderella's another band that was that got really big, but then disappeared because of whatever, and because they changed the way they were doing things, but they changed their way for the better. And I think that had they got more attention, might have been one of those bands like a Motley Crue or something that transitioned into 20 years later, people still wanting to go see them. Yeah, that's a good question, Roop. Even though I don't, we can talk about any music, and I'm not, but the Roop, how is Pat Benatar not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? That is a very good question. Yeah, exactly. How is she not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? How is Lita? I mean, I won't say, does Lita Ford deserve to be in the Rock Hall of Fame? In my opinion, yes, because she I would say she was one of those ones like Patti Smith in the punk era. So that she was one of those people that initially knocked down the door for women in metal to be the front person. There have been a lot of bands that people don't realize, like the bass player was, or they had a keyboard player or whatever that was a woman, but there was not somebody out there in the front. You had the Stevie Nickses and stuff like that in the rock scene, but no one in metal. And she kind of kicked that freaking door open. And then you had between the standard rock and metal, you had freaking like Joan Jett and Patti Smith that were also doing the same thing. So it's like one of those things where, yeah, there's a lot of people that deserve to be in Rock and Roll Hall of Fame before Jay-Z. We don't even want to get into that freaking debate. Just like we don't want to get into the debate that freaking Tommy Thayer and freaking Eric Singer deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And that's why I don't watch the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame anymore. is because the two of the members of Kiss that should have been there, no matter what, weren't inducted. And so, and don't get me started on that one. But yeah, Tesla was freaking huge. But Tesla didn't become that. They were okay, they were a good rock metal band. They weren't really a hair metal band. They were towing the lines of the freaking, because of the bluesiness behind their song, like Heaven's Trail and stuff like that. But it was 5-man acoustical jam, which was and I had Mechanical Resonance and stuff like that. But 5-man acoustical jam was the album that for me put Tesla on the map. For me, because it was right during the same era of, I'm gonna have to turn off. I'm gonna turn off autofocus on this. Or some, sorry, guys. Hopefully, maybe there's something on the lens or something like that, or I change the lighting every once in a while because it started hunting and stuff like that. So, like I was saying, So Europe. What can I say about Europe? Final Countdown, yeah. Cherokee, Carrie. They're the band that you want. They have a song that everybody sings during breaks at concerts when it comes on with the Final Countdown, and it's always kind of the thanks libation. Freaking Lita Ford does deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But yeah, Europe. I was never a huge fan. Maybe he was too pretty. I don't know, but some of the later Europe albums and stuff like that that people don't hear are actually really good good rock metal albums. I never really got into Europe, like I said, so I really can't speak to that other than the fact that I know a few songs, and yeah, they were hair metal. But like Skid Row, Skid Row was freaking awesome. Their first album was great, but Slave to the Grind is freaking always going to be my favorite Skid Row album, period. Just the song Slave to the Grind. It is just punches you in the face, and it kind of like tells you that, yeah, you might think that we're hair metal, but we're ready to kick you in the balls. So that's so Skid Row, like I say with Faster Pussycat, there's freaking Saxon was starting to gain ground in Europe and started bring, Denim and Leather, Never Surrender. Those became, they started kind of that whole other movement of British metal started coming into the strip scene and stuff like that with Saxon, with Motorhead getting bigger, Lemmy actually at the time moving in the 80s to the States and living in Hollywood. So you had a lot of that. You had a lot of stuff going on at the same time. Bullet Boys. Bullet Boys, that's another band. Freaking other bands that are to this day are so freaking awesome to watch. Y&T. People freaking Don't Stop Running. Good song. Mean Streak. Freaking, good songs, stuff like that. But Y&T, they still sell out here in Southern California, at least. So, they still sell out 500 to 1,000 freaking seat venues in the area where I'm at when they come through, and people actually paid some pretty decent prices for to be able to go see them on secondary for tickets. So, and they're a great. Enough's Enough, Fly High, Vandenberg. That's another one. Adrian Vandenberg. his band Vandenberg, one of those bands that guitar wise, just the guitar playing on it is worth listening to the album. But Burning Heart and Wait, Wait is just a good rock song. And especially when he gets to the wait till the shit hits the fan. I mean, it never got played on the radio, but I found the album one day and I knew Burning Heart, and I went ahead and started listening to it, and it's a great freaking album. Then you got other bands. So like, hey, what's going on, Shane? Firehouse. Oh, that used to be my jam. Freaking. I never thought you'd hurt me, but I guess you didn't know. When you're playing with fire, you're bound to get burned. I'm gonna get that. Yeah. So freaking. Don't Treat Me Bad. Actually, a few of their later albums it was after the grunge takeover, are actually really good also. The thing is that this whole time we've gone through this, people are throwing up Winger, Great White. Okay, now Winger, people don't realize who Kip Winger was prior to being in Winger. Bands that he'd been in, and I'm not gonna talk about that right now, but I'm gonna do a whole thing on you didn't know this 80s metal, 90s metal, whatever bands that other people were in that he was a bass player for, who stuff like that. But yeah, so and they're always bringing up Great White. Great White's freaking great. Their newer versions of Great White, Jack Russell's Great White is great for what it is, but it ain't great. It's not Great White, even though Jack Russell is doing the singing. I've seen both Jack Russell's Great White and the new Great White, the Great White with the new lead singer that they've had for a while now. And the original Great White band without Jack Russell, I'm sorry, is to me is better. But see, like everybody's talking, no, I never got to see Vandenberg live. I only went to a couple concerts in the 80s. Luckily, like I said, the Ozzy Anthrax Lita, and then that was just and I didn't even get to stay I didn't even get to go the whole concert. I kind of got there a little bit late and had to leave a little bit early because I was trying to do it under the radar, to not get in trouble, because it was down in LA and I live here, live out here. And I was like, oh, I'm going to work at 16 years old, whatever. And yeah, to not get my ass freaking caught. My mom will see this and then I'll be in trouble, even though I'm 51 now. But yeah. And then, my first concert, which was Stryper, TNT, and Loudness. And my second concert, which was Bon Jovi and opening up for Rat, on the Invasion of Your Privacy tour. Damn it. And then I didn't go to concerts for a really long time because I ended up being in the Navy and blah, 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 whatever. So I missed a lot of that, and I'll still go watch them at freaking festivals or whatever if I come across it. But yeah, Dangerous Toys, that's another band. But the thing is that one of the biggest bands of that 80s era, I haven't seen it brought up. Now I might have missed it, and now Steamface, new to the don't know. See, it's the first time I've ever seen that name. Thank you for watching. Slaughter, Steve Face. Oh, he's just going through the freaking list. I guess Steve Face knows Richie Z. So the Guns N' Roses, nobody's brought him up from what I could tell. To the Roots bringing up to Keto. So, Guns N' Roses is such a polarizing band. It's one of those things that if you were to say what was the best band of the 80s, what was the best album, you're always going to see Appetite for Destruction as one of those albums. And it was amazing when it came out, and Axl Rose was his voice was so fucking awesome and everything else, but he kind of screwed himself with people in the 80s and in the 90s for his antics at concerts and no showing and everything else. And then deciding, that the band breaks up, and then when he comes back, he decides that he doesn't want certain members still in the band, whatever. Guns N' Roses was great. Their albums were freaking awesome. The songs like Patience, they're freaking great. Welcome to the Jungle. I used to love her. Not exactly a politically correct song, but I like it. Just the whole, not necessarily the wording, but the premise of it and everything else. But like Guns N' Roses, yeah, wasn't brought up, which is it's fine with me. Forever Young, okay, that's a good one. Live, oh, so Tito's first concert was Neil Diamond. Second was I think he's trying to say Van Halen, or if it's Can Halen, I guess it's a really, really obscure freaking knockoff cover band. The Can Halen Fuck Tour. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. But okay, yeah. So Van Halen or whatever, yeah. And my cousin's a huge Van Halen fan too, but we both agree. But that's also because we're both from Fontana. So Co-N already knows this. Most people in California probably do know this. Sammy Hagar was raised in Fontana, California. He moved in his middle of his junior year or beginning of his senior year to Central Valley, to Central California, up there by Richie Z and that. And so Sammy Hagar is always going to have that. If you want to argue with me with the Van Halen, Van Hagar thing, it's always going to be Van Hagar for me, even though I do love Van Halen. I do love David Lee Roth. He's a douche. In person, he's a douchebag, but I like what he did in Van Halen. I like his solo albums. So, but I just love Sammy Hagar. I go out of my way. I go to freaking Arizona and stuff just to see him play the same set list that I saw him play 2 weeks earlier here in San Bernardino. But Steppenwolf, that's a really good first concert to go to. Sweet Child of Mine, yeah, that's a freaking awesome song too. Mr. Brownstone, Night Train, those are also really, really good songs, but they talk about subjects people didn't want to hear about, so they didn't get played on the radio, even though they're good freaking songs. Get in the ring. See here, what's this? I gotta go through this here. Yeah, Sammy still. Oh yeah, and Sammy still sounds as good as he ever did. Believe me, I saw him when I was younger at a free concert in a park in Fontana, and I followed him through his whole career. Actually, my favorite song by him is called "Marching to Mars." Yeah. So then, let's see. Where's the Steam Face? What do you say? Get in the ring could make an angry youngster like I was back in the day down a bottle of Jack Daniels and go looking for a fight. There you go. This has been said. The Root first concert was The Clash in '83. Well, I guess unless Root was like 3 years old, I'm tending to think that the Root is closer to my age at 50. So Clash in '83 would have been freaking awesome. That's a London. No, it's way after London Calling, but that's the Rock the Casbah era of the Clash. But yeah, that would have been great to go see the Clash do that. Bourbon Battalion, how you doing, buddy? We're just talking about 80s hair metal, and other people are drinking. I drank a lot last night on a 12. What ended up being, I guess it ended up being almost 20-hour stream. I left around the 13-hour mark for Scotch Down Under last night for their first year anniversary. And Ken being a madman, he went almost 20 hours. Okay, yeah, ripped 51. So, yeah, so then, yeah, Combat Rock. Okay, there you go. So, yeah, Combat Rock, that is the Rock the Casbah era of the Clash. And then, okay, so my favorite, okay, so I'm looking at a list of my what I call Hair Metal 101 on Spotify. It's a list I made, and I got to the Guns N' Roses section of it, and the first song on it is because it's the order I have it in is not what I think of the songs, but for some reason I put my favorite song by Guns N' Roses on at the number one spot in that part of the list, and it's called Pretty Tied Up. It's just the groove of it, just the freaking thought the way it just bring it tied up. You know, I'm not a big cowbell fan or a big freaking like percussion and heavy metal freaking fan. You know, like really like the blocks or the cowbell. Yeah, Christopher Walken's right. Blue Oyster Cult. They needed more cowbell, but Tommy Lee, I'm sorry, I love you. You're a great drummer, but you destroyed the cowbell for me for pretty much the rest of my life. Because it seems like you played on every single Motley Crue song that wasn't Home Sweet Home. So yeah, that's my Tommy Lee rant, because that's the only thing I disliked about the man when he played. Tito's freaking doing deep dives. A lot of people don't know who Yngwie Malmsteen. Most people in this group of people might know who it is, because Cohen also brought him up. But the first one I noticed was that Tito brought up Yngwie Malmsteen. I was obsessed with Yngwie Malmsteen when I was younger. I had to have the freaking CDs. I had to have Trilogy. I had to have Heaven Tonight. When that song came out and it was actually on the radio, it was like an eye-opening moment for me, saying, oh wait, Yngwie can be on the radio. And then some of the songs, he has all the Joey Lynn Turner singing for him, freaking on his albums, freaking Ripper. All these guys have sung on his albums and stuff like that, and he doesn't get the recognition that Yngwie should get for being just more than, because Rising Force is a great freaking band, and freaking the singers he has on there are freaking phenomenal singers, and they're freaking great songs. I think that his personality overshadows a lot of what he does, and the fact that he looks like a giant sausage when he's wearing freaking leather pants. But Cohen brought up Alcatraz, which is, he brought up the band that Yngwie came onto the freaking hair metal scene with, even though Alcatraz is a little bit more metal side of hair metal than they are hair. They had the hair metal look. But the thing is that kills me is that at one point in time, was for a very, 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 very short time, Yngwie Malmsteen and Steve Vai were both in Alcatraz. And then Yngwie left and Steve Vai went on with Alcatraz for a little bit, and then went to David Lee Roth. And then also people know Steve Vai played with freaking Frank Zappa. There's a lot of history there. If you ever want to go see something really interesting, just watch any documentary on Steve Vai and see the people that he's played with before he became famous, and the people that he's played with since he became famous, and the people that have played in his band, like Devin Townsend and stuff like that. There's a lot of good information about that out there. Let's see. New comments. Let's see. Get to the bottom here. See. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Dweezil. People don't give him credit for as good of a guitar player he is. Satriani, until Surfing with the Alien came out, never really got a whole lot of airplay. Nobody really gave him what the credit he needed or the credit he deserved. And then he kind of disappeared off the face of the earth for a lot of people. Not me, because I followed him, but until he showed up in Chickenfoot with Sammy and that. But Vi is freaking amazing. And but like, okay, so they're talking about like Jay Giles, so that those would be, those would be freaking great shows to go see too, and everything else. But I'm trying to keep up with the chat over here and still ramble about this other shit, other things, some of that. But yeah, if there's anybody that I have so many freaking crazy amounts of CDs and stuff just in boxes and everything else, and okay. So now I got to the next section, the next three bands on my 101 hair metal 101. This band is not a hair metal band. This band is nothing but a freaking straight up metal band. And people never gave him any freaking credit. They gave credit. Okay, so people freaking loved Accept with Udo as the lead singer. He looked like a blonde Patton Oswalt in military gear. You can put them side by side and put blonde hair and military gear on both of them. You won't be able to tell the difference between him and Patton Oswalt. And nobody gave him crap about the fact that he wasn't like the typical frontman. But everybody freaking hammered on Grim Reaper because their freaking lead singer was a little bit bigger than they thought he should have been, and various things like that. When I'm sorry, See You in Hell, Rock You to Hell, those are freaking great. Those are freaking great songs, and people don't realize that till later on that they were freaking great songs. And he had a great freaking voice. Yeah, Steve Grimmett, there you go. Bam, freaking, he's all over it. And Steve Grimmett to this day still does Grim Reaper, does his own solo stuff, and I think it's been about 3 years, I think, since his last solo project, but he had done some, Grim Reaper freaking shows and stuff like that. But Kix, that's the other band that I was really kind of into for a while with, Cold Blood, Don't Close Your Eyes, Blow My Fuse, and stuff like that. Then you had LA Guns, the other half of Hollywood Rose. The original Hollywood Rose. The original Hollywood Rose, which still to this day exists, Hollywood Rose does, has had a multiple amount of different singers and people rotating in and out, including Michael Starr of Steel Panther was at one time the lead singer in Hollywood Rose. But the original band Hollywood Rose was Axl Rose was the lead singer, and Tracy Guns, the Guns brothers were guitar players. And and then they went there. They became Guns N' Roses and became LA Guns. And the Guns N' Roses name originally did come from the Hollywood Rose they were transitioning into something different. The Guns N' Roses. That's how it became that name. But Tracy Guns was never really a part of the band. Maybe in the initial part, I have to do research, but I think maybe like right at the very beginning he might have been. But yeah, so then you got LA Guns, Guns N' Roses, both fighting against each other on the freaking Sunset Strip. I've always thought that LA Guns, talent-wise, was freaking way underrated. But let's see. Lion's Heart for a while. Okay. Oh, Anvil. Yeah, Anvil, that's another one that people like to overlook, but guess what? Freaking Anvil's freaking awesome. It's still to this day, Lips is freaking doing it. He's still doing it. He's still doing it. He just doesn't want to stop. He's going to keep going. But then we work our way through, like I already talked to Cinderella. I mean, we know Shake Me, we know Nobody's Fool. But when they transition and start doing songs like Gypsy Road, The Last Mile, and Shelter Me, those are freaking great albums, great songs. Long Cold Winter, Heartbreak Station, those are freaking so much better than Night Songs was. But everybody's going to always go towards Night Songs because the radio airplay, blah, blah, blah. And, that was their real hair metal before, they got rid of all the hairspray and stuff. And then my favorite Cinderella song is Bad Seamstress, Falling Apart at the Seams. It's off of Long Cold Winter, if you ever get a chance to listen to it. Then Slaughter, so we brought them up earlier, Mark Slaughter, Blas Elias, Up All Night, Fly to the Angels. There's a lot better Slaughter before they became famous, and some good stuff afterwards. Tesla, we've already talked about them. Signs, Heaven's Trail, Edison's Medicine, Love Song. Then we move on to another band that the very first. Okay, so I did see this band play, but I didn't consider it to be a concert because they were playing at a wave pool on a quasi made up stage. They were playing at a wave pool when I was in Florida in the military in 1989. they were playing and they were opening for Blue Murder, and it was Warrant. So this is in 89. I want to say it's like 89, mid to late 89. When that back end of hair metal really started, going with like Warrant and Trickster and that part of the Firehouse era, when it was like on the back end of the original surge of Poison, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, and everything else. But Warrant, I always loved Warrant. Motley Crue, I'll always be a huge fan of Motley Crue. Poison. I mean, you can talk. Yeah, I don't know if Steamface is telling me that maybe he hadn't heard. We talked about Poison earlier, or is he saying that why does people put Poison in hair metal? Because Poison is hair metal. There, I mean, when you think of bands, okay, if you were to close your eyes and somebody said to you hair metal, one of the first 5 bands that pops up in your head is going to be either Motley Crue or Poison. It's just the way it is. But yeah, and Poison to this day, I go watch them. I've watched them multiple times. I watched them open up for David Lee Roth on the Skyscraper tour. And Poison actually blew David Lee Roth out of the water, except for the drum break. The drum break involved bringing on a full-blown drum line onto the stage, and then the entire band, Bissonette, Vi, everybody got on stage, and David Lee Roth too, and they played steel drums, and they did a whole freaking percussion section. That was freaking great. But outside of that, Poison blew them off the stage, and that was for Open Up and Say Ah, for them. Yeah, okay, so you dropped in late, but yeah, Poison, huge fans. There's some of their, I love freaking Look What the Cat Dragged In. Okay. Open Up and Say Ah, freaking great album. But there's some other stuff that I like by them that were off of later albums. There's one that's actually off of an album that didn't have Bret Michaels on it, but the song was sung by CeCe DeVille. Because I like it's a song called I Love let's see. I hate it. It's God, Bone in Your Body. That's what I think the name of the song is. But it's sung by CeCe DeVille. It's a freaking funny song. It was on the album that had John Calabar. I can't remember how to pronounce his name. But yeah, then Motley Crue. We can go. There's so much. Too Fast for Love. No matter what anybody says, the album freaking Too Fast for Love is the best album Motley Crue ever put out. I don't think that they've ever freaking been on the same level as that metal wise and everything else as that album. On With the Show, Live Wire. I mean, come on, too young to fall in love. I mean, freaking come on. It's just the most icon. To me, it's my favorite. On With the Show, Live Wire, On With the Show, Piece of Your Action, Too Fast for Love, and On With the Show. I mean, just those 4 songs. You can pull 4 songs off of other albums, but I don't think they match up to those. I don't think they really do. Public Enemy #1's also on that album. Theater of Pain, they did a cover, a Brownsville Station cover, Smoke in the Boys Room, Home Sweet Home. Outside of that, whatever. Shout Out the Devil. Helter Skelter was a great cover. Too Young to Fall in Love's on that album. I got it mixed with Too Fast for Love. Then they went to their stripper phase on Girls, Girls, Girls. And that's great. These are all great albums, but my own personal favorite is always going to be Too Fast for Love. But let's see. Haven't taken on Judas Priest yet. Root. I like to hear your take on Judas Priest. They were one of my favorites in my teens. Okay. We can do Judas Priest. Rob Halford is freaking Lemmy level to me. Um, Lemmy, just like I said, who to win between a fight between Lemmy and God? It's a trick question because Lemmy is God. Um, but at the same time, Rob Halford's also one of those guys. Um, whether it's his solo stuff, his Priest stuff, it's freaking Rob Halford. His voice kind of went away for a few years. I seen him live, and one year I was like, "Oh man, is he at the end of his career?" And then he figured out something, because then I saw him live and Steel Panther opened up for him at the casino out here at San Manuel when they used to have a little indoor 500 seat deal in the bingo hall. I saw Priest, and holy shit, absolutely fucking amazing. And then I turned around and saw him at Knotfest as the headliner on a Saturday night, and yet again, freaking amazing. And for his age and the fact that he does have a hard time getting around, he still comes out on the motorcycle. He still, you see him take breaks in the stage. I guess that's, doing spraying, doing whatever he's got to do to keep on singing, but he still does it. And I'll go watch him. I'll continue to watch him over and over. But there's a dead spot in Judas Priest. Everything is great up until, so British Steel. You get to British Steel, and then you have Point of Entry, which was not a very good album. Then you get into Screaming for Vengeance. I think I missed another album in there, but it was, obviously not going to be one of my favorites because I'm not mentioning it. But you got into Screaming to Vengeance. That's when I really kind of got into Priest, but you got to think that when that album came out, I was a kid. I was a teen, preteen or teenage, right into the teenager thing. So you got another thing coming and everything else. And then I went back and found Breaking the Law and Green Malanishi and all that stuff. And then they came out with a live album that pretty much opened my eyes to what Judas Priest was. And I have a CD. I think I have a CD of all but, I think, Nostradamus, because I lost, somebody borrowed it and never gave it back. But I pretty much have like all the Megadeths, all the free. I mean, I collect the CDs, even though I might not listen to them. I already had, like, say, Priest. I had like 5 or 6 of them, so I might as well get them all. That type of situation. But yeah, Priest is freaking awesome. I'll go see him to this day. But okay, so Jacob Enriquez brings up Turbo. Turbo Lover, the song, actually. Okay, you can have your opinion. Decent album. There was a big after Screaming for Vengeance. You had Turbo. You had Ram It Down. I think that for me, Painkiller is the next best album that they did. And it's only literally because of Painkiller. That song is so freaking awesome. Defenders of the Faith was a decent album. It was the yin to the yang of Screaming for Vengeance. That's why the difference in they used the same artistic. They use the same type of art on it, but one is yellow, one is black, one is the sun, one is the darkness. And Defenders of the Faith is actually a darker album if you look farther into it. It was I think there was the beginning of something that was going to be an ongoing. I think that's when Rob Halford really wanted to start doing a storytelling thing, like he did with Nostradamus and everything else later. But Firepower, the latest album, is freaking great. Kind of goes to throwback to the Priest everybody loves. But see, yeah, and then early Priest is definitely different. It's but the musicianship, the Halford's voice and stuff like that, it's just like one of those things that you're either some people are not a fan of early Priest, some people are not a fan of later Priest. It's just the way it happens. The same thing with like the Metallica thing and whatever. There's before and after. So people have their opinions. Myself, for Priest, I think they had a few bad albums, but I'm a fan across the board. The same with Iron Maiden, same thing. They had a couple, okay albums, but across the board, they're awesome. Scorpions, yeah. Coed brings up Scorpions. If you listen to early Scorpions till MTV Scorpions, definitely a difference. Definitely a huge difference. But then again, yeah, Uli John Roth, the early with Schenker, the Schenker brothers, and then Michael Schenker leaving, and Rudolph staying. There's a lot of different transitions in the guitars for that band, and you can see it in the style of music they started playing at certain points in time. Blackout is still the best Scorpions album, to me at least. But Love at First Sting is also freaking. I like that, and the guy's got a great voice. See now, they're just calling out everybody. Freaking Whitesnake. Slide It In is probably, to me, is my favorite Whitesnake album. It was a lot bluesier than later Whitesnake and everything else, and I love just freaking Slide It In is just an awesome album. But see, so then there's bands that are freaking iconic that people don't even know existed, like UFO. I mean, and stuff like that. People don't talk about them. I can talk about them at another point in time because that's more on the quote unquote rock side, and that's 70s into 80s era music right there. And we can get into them at another point in time. I'm more than willing to do that. Which I probably will do that. I'll probably do a 70s rock thing where we talk about, UFO and freaking early Scorps and early Priest and all stuff like that. White Zombie, Whiskey Samurai, okay. So that's going into a totally different genre of music in the 90s that I also will be talking about. White Zombie, but my own opinion, and that way people can think about it to fight me about it, is White Zombie, the band, and those albums are better than anything that Rob Zombie did as a solo artist. And people say, "Oh, it's the same thing." It's not. It's not. If you really listen to the White Zombie albums compared to the Rob Zombie albums, there's an underlying crossover to them, but they're completely different freaking bands. And especially with John Five playing guitar and stuff like that, there's a different style to it. Love Drive, that's another good Scorps album. Let's see, Uriah Heep. So obviously this is obviously I think that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually get everything taken care of tomorrow so that all the thumbnails and everything else are out. I'm going to put up I will keep an eye out. I will put up a link to YouTube Music to a collaborative playlist. It'll be up. I will get it up tomorrow so that you have plenty of time to put 70s rock and metal. We'll do the 70s next Saturday. 70s rock and metal, and we'll even dip back into the influence of the 60s, what it had on people like Black Sabbath and stuff, to where they end up creating the music that everybody considers to be the beginning of heavy metal. We can get into that. I would have a shitload of fun because then it brings in my boy Lemmy and Motorhead. Unfortunately, talking about the 70s, not say unfortunately because I love Journey, but you're going to get into stuff like that and Triumph, we can talk about Triumph and Rush and all that other stuff through the 70s, and we can, overlap it into some of the 80s rock side of this. Okay, so Whiskey Samurai wasn't born until 89. You know what, Whiskey Samurai, that's, it's great that you're young, but it's really sad that you didn't grow up with a lot of us that are in here that grew up in the 80s and grew up on all this stuff. I'm telling you, you're missing. If you're not haven't listened to it, yeah. Blue Cheer, Hendrix, the influences of Wild Cherry, Iron Butterfly, Cream, stuff like that. All those late 60s, early 70s bands that inspired freaking bands. King Crimson, inspiring Rush. Well, it's not just King Crimson, obviously. Frank Zappa in the late 60s, King Crimson, ELP in the very early 70s. Their influences on progressive rock and progressive metal through the 70s and 80s. And then like the influences of how nobody talks about ELO, but everybody knows freaking Mr. Blue Sky and Turn to Stone, and when they come on, people sing it, but they never talk about it. But Alice Cooper, yeah, Alice Cooper's still going strong and putting on great freaking shows still. As a matter of fact, his guitarist Nita Strauss, great person, beautiful person, great guitarist. One of these days, I'm hoping that I get to actually do a real interview with her. I've talked to her multiple times at NAMS and stuff, but someday I'd like to sit down with her and talk to her. But so Wild Cherry was play that funky music, but there's more to them. Casey and the Sunshine Band was a freaking disco band, but if you listen to some of their stuff that wasn't disco, that the influences that they had, Little River Band, early Billy Joel, stuff like that. Those are the rock, quote unquote, rock side of the 70s and stuff like that. But there's influence there. And you know what? Cancel me now. I love the Little River Band. I always have, ever since I was a kid. Of course, Steely Dan. They've had a lot of influences on rock and metal bands, especially progressively. A lot of people note them as the band that they really freaking followed when they were younger and that influenced their style of playing and stuff. There is a rotating guitarist for Alice Cooper. He has had the same guitarist, I think this is the longest he's done it in a long time. It was like 4 or 5 years that we're going on now since Nita joined him, that he's had the consistency of having the same band. But yeah, muscle guy with the gun guitars. Another band that people overlook, Nitro. The fact that the guitar player was Michelangelo Badio, or now he's called Michelangelo Badio. Before it was just Michelangelo. The guy with the four neck guitar, and kind of like he was the guy that actually designed the guitar that Steve Vai plays. It's one of his designs that Steve Vai plays in the David Lee Roth freaking I want to say it's Yankee Rose video. But Greg Lake, yeah, rest in peace. The Asia, that's another big for me. Asia, Alan Parsons Project, they were also huge. Flying Burrito Brothers. Those are also bands that I was really into, and I still listen to them here and there. Boogie Shoe, Shake Your Booty. There you go. Get out there, Richie Z. Throw out those freaking Casey and the Sunshine Band freaking. Hey, anybody ever? Okay, since I got enough old people in here, what about Disco Duck by Rick Dees and his Band of Idiots? So there's a lot of really great bands from the 70s that, truthfully, I need to start making up. Yeah, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have, I said it was going to be 80s and 90s, and I keep on referring to other stuff and everything else. I hope that nobody's mad that I, am not just sticking to the 80s and 90s thing. It's my fault, and please forgive me. But if we were to get back into it, we've already brought up Rat. I don't know what anybody else's freaking Rat, what they like and what they don't like. First album was great. Invasion of Your Privacy was better. That's just my opinion. We talked about Whitesnake. Nobody brought up freaking White Lion yet. Tell Me, Little Fighter. There's some really good songs there too. We talked about Scorpions, Big City Nights, No One Like You, Rock You Like a Hurricane. I mean, I Can't Explain. See, those ones like I Can't Explain and Tease Me, Please Me were after the 80s. Those were in the early 90s, but those are still freaking great songs, great albums. And then Blackout. And then the first band to ever have a number one album, the first metal band to ever have a number one album on the Billboard charts in the 1980s. And people can, you love them or you hate them. There's no in between. Quiet Riot. I love Quiet Riot. A lot of people don't. Twisted Sister, Quiet Riot, the bands that people love to hate. But yeah, Metal Health was a great album, but they had like Mama, You're All Crazy Now. People don't realize that how many covers they did from a group called Slade, who's only in America. Their only charting song is a song called Run Runaway from the 80s. And it's nowhere near a freaking metal song. It's nowhere near a rock and metal song. It's a freaking 80s song. But Come On, Feel the Noise, that's a Slade song. Mama, We're All Crazy Now is also a Slade song. And then Fastway, that's another band that nobody talks about. Freaking love Fastway. We've talked about Firehouse. Haven't really talked about Def Leppard. Basically, Def Leppard's a freaking great band. I don't think that they lump really into the hair metal. They're more of a rock or hard rock metal band, quote unquote metal band. But for the time, they were considered to be metal. Me and My Wine, freaking great song. You'd have to really be a Def Leppard fan to know the songs like Me and My Wine, that the album's On Through the Night. But people always know Pyromania, Hysteria, all that, the Love Bites and everything else and stuff like that, when they missed out on a lot of really good songs prior to that. But yeah, Rock of Ages, Full In, Photograph, those are, coming off of the Pyromania album. But then, you say Def Leppard to some people and they immediately go, oh yeah, Pour Sugar on Me. It's it's a good song. It's a great song, whatever. But yeah, and I don't want to get into that one. And then one of my favorite bands also in both, and I'm going to say this, in both eras, Jeff Tate and Guy Torre, both phenomenal singers, both freaking great. But yeah, it's what is it? It's Queensryche. Always been a great band. Will always be a band that I really like to listen to. I've seen both iterations of them. I'm a huge Jeff Tate fan, so I kind of lean that way. But Guy Torre has done an amazing job as the lead singer of Queensryche now. But we're talking the era of Eyes of a Stranger, Jet City Woman, I Don't Believe in Love, Walk in the Shadows, Queen of the Reich. That would be literally late 80s rolling into, I say 86, 87, rolling in through the beginning of the 90s, through the Empire album. But Eyes of the Stranger will always be my favorite Queensryche song of all time. It's one of the songs that goes the gambit of vocal range and stuff. But then we talked about Winger. Twisted Sister, love D. Snyder. It's freaking party. It's party rock. You like him or you don't. Damn Yankees, the super group, is to me anything that puts Night Ranger and Ted Nugent in the same place and they can actually come up with something that's freaking you can listen to. Hey, it's a plus for me. We went through the whole Kiss 80s thing, Ozzy Osbourne, shot in the Dark, and The Ultimate Sin, and songs from that album. Freaking Bark at the Moon, that whole album. Freaking after Blizzard in the early 80s and stuff like that. We got Wasp, Animal, fuck like a beast, Wild Child, Blind in Texas. The Real Me is actually my favorite song by Wasp. From the Headless Children album. And then we went through Priest, Jackal. That's another one that came in the really late 80s. And they actually had the lead singer had a show on TV, and he's involved. He lives in South Dakota at freaking what's it called, at the motorcycle rally. He lives there and everything else. And then Dawkins. Yeah, we talked about Dawkins a little while ago, but yeah, great. Then see, The Warning is a freaking great EP by Queensryche. Yes, it is. But Jackal, I Stand Alone, Down on Me, The Lumberjack. Those are they're great little freaking rock metal songs. Freaking Van Halen's 80s, which would be like 1984. 5150, OU812, the transition from Dave Lee Roth into Sammy Hagar. We can get into that another time. I could talk for hours on that one. Bullet Boys, Smooth. We brought them up earlier. Smooth Up India, For the Love of Money. Europe, Final Countdown, Carrie, Rock the Night, Cherokee. Then Iron Maiden. That's a whole thing of its own. We can argue that all day long, but I'm starting to get into Hot Buttery Rolls live. But Bon Jovi, up through not say Slippery When Wet. I'll even go a little bit farther. I'm a fan of Bon Jovi. It's one of my first concerts I ever saw. I was always a fan of the song Runaway. But then I was also, for some reason, I got to sing about the song Runaway because it's a song by Adele Shannon. That I'm walking in the rain. That's one of my favorite songs, literally one of my top 10 songs of all time. And then Runaway by Bon Jovi is also one of my favorite songs, not say top 10, but really. And then you got the Sammy Hagar, I Can't Drive 55, Three Lock Box, Your Love Is Driving Me Crazy, Extreme, another underrated band. People made too much fun of them about eventually about More Than Words. It was so beautiful. Now they make fun of them. But Play With Me, Get the Funk Out, Wholehearted. Those are freaking great songs. Okay. So now Cohen's really freaking, we're going to have this conversation about 70s music, Black Oak, Arkansas. Oh, Jacket Blue. Yeah. We can have this, conversation. We can definitely have this conversation now. I can dive deep on the 70s. I don't know why. It's because of some weird obsession of mine. Yeah, the early Bon Jovi was freaking great. I mean, like the first album, just the self-titled 7800 Fahrenheit. Even before Slippery When Wet, those two albums were freaking probably some of the best things Bon Jovi did. Slippery When Wet was a great album. Don't get me wrong, but that's when they became radio friendly, more poppy. So after that's when they kind of, and outside of that, some of the stuff they have done, songs that they have done have been great. It's My Life is actually a very good song. David Lee Roth. Oh, Mr. Big. How can you not talk about Mr. Big? Everybody thinks that they only have one song called To Be With You. Horseshit. Mr. Big is awesome. And when you put when you put that group together, man, come on. Freaking, it's one of my favorite super groups. And if you really want to know the story, go check out the story behind Mr. Big. It's freaking great. David Lee Roth solo, Jim Dandy. Okay. Now Jackie Blue, I might have got wrong, but I believe that's Black Oak. I want to say that, yeah. I want to say that's Black Oak, Arkansas. I might have got it wrong, but damn it, it didn't sound too bad when I said it. Roulette, there you go. That's another freaking great song off that first album. Aldo Nova. Wow, Richie's really messing with me, isn't he? Aldo Nova. Phenomenal freaking guitar player nobody knew about, has been involved in so many freaking albums. You got to look him up. I just watched a deal with him about his a guitar that he designed. It was on, I can't remember. I want to say it was on Music Is Win on YouTube, but he discusses, or it was Trogley's. I think it was Trogley's guitar show. He actually talks about a guitar he designed that there was only 3 of them, and he didn't know that the other 2 were still out there. It's really interesting. But Aldo Nova, Fantasy, yeah. The Choppers. That's one of those songs when you hear the Choppers, you know what song's getting ready to come on. But yeah, because life is just a fantasy when you live that fantasy life. Yeah. Oh, there you go. That's why it got me. Ozark Mountain Daredevils. Okay, so the Ozark thing got me. But yeah, thanks a lot for clearing that up for me, Cohen. But yeah, we can go ahead and, yeah, like I said, there's plenty of talk about the 70s we can do at any point in time. 70s way better than the 80s. For rock, I'd say for rock music, yeah, because you had the Fleetwood Macs, the Pink Floyds, the Zeppelins through to a certain point. You had Zeppelin, you had Clapton, you had freaking the 11 bands that Clapton was in between 1970 and 1972. There's so much there to explore. And then, you know, the end of Flower Power, the begin that between that 70 to 75 ish, the music that came out before disco and the music that came out after disco in the 70s. So we're getting to the punk scene on the back end, is some of the best music, that most influential best music that's ever been done. I just like 80s metal, but we can talk about that another time, sir. Yeah. Kansas and Styx. See, now everybody's pushing towards this freaking 70s thing, because Kansas and Styx, Styx in the 80s became Mr. Roboto and stuff like that, but Don't Let It End. Yeah. The ballad band, but Cornerstone, Paradise Theater. Yeah. That's once you start talking about stuff like that, then yeah, I'm all on that Styx band, that Styx wagon, the Journey, a band that was an 80s band that didn't get a lot of hype was HSAS. It was Hagar and Neil Sean. I can't remember off the top of my head the other 2 freaking people in the band, but they had a quick super group thing that was pretty good. Andy Taylor from the Duran Duran actually broke off from Duran Duran at that point in time and came out with a couple of rock albums during the 80s. One called Thunder, which is actually a really good rock album. But let's get back, so Accept, Balls to the Wall, Fast as a Shark. Everybody knows that. That is interesting. That Megadeth, we can go, like, that's one of those deep dives. Rainbow with Stone Cold is just a bitchin' song. Street of Dreams, the Joey Lynn Turner era of Rainbow and Deep Purple. We can get into that. I love Joey Lynn Turner. So, and then you got like Ugly Kid Joe, Everything About You, Madman Loose in Disney. It's a Madman Loose in Disneyland. That was kind of like where it started getting into the whole back into the 80s, early 90s, into the Faith No More, Ugly Kid Joes. Then now you got Girls School by Brittany Fox. That's another one that wasn't brought up. Dangerous Toys, Teasing and Pleasing. Trickster. I saw them in a bar in Orlando when I was in the Navy. And it was they sang Line of Fire, One in a Million, Surrender. And it was fun. There was a hell of a lot of girls in that bar. Steelheart, his voice is awesome too. I'll Never Let You Go. Danger, Danger, Bang Bang, Naughty Naughty, Saigon Kick, Love Is on the Way. I mean, we can Fast Way, Say What You Will. You had the Vinnie Vincent Invasion after he left Kiss. Decent album. Then we go through the Yngwie. We've already talked about Yngwie. Kingdom Come. That's another band that went away way too soon because it was Get It On was a freaking awesome. Hurricane and Tora Tora, Keel, and then Helix, Rock You. That was always a big one for me. Cohen. Yeah, Cohen's now he's in the 70s and he's having his conversation with other old people about the 70s here. I was a big punk fan. Not to the point where I wore freaking a mohawk or anything else, but kind of down low. But I was the Germs. My cousin's wife actually is really hardcore into that whole 70s, early 80s punk, and she's got albums from that era we were listening to recently, or not recently, within the last. There you go, Aaron and Shreve. There you go, HSAS. But so we can get into that as we'll talk about that. I like the, I was into the Dead Kennedys, the early Damned, and all that kind of stuff when I was I didn't really get into them until I was like, say, mid 80s, but because at the time, I mean, I'm 9 years old in 79, 78, 79, 9, 10 years old. So I know I like it, but I'm not really into it. I'm not diving deep into it. I didn't really start diving deep into bands and stuff till mid 80s, say 84 when I was ninth grade. But Kicks, we'd Blow My Fuse. Great freaking song. Stanley, did you like the 70s punk band that Billy Idol was in? Generation X. Yeah, kind of. I mean, it was all right. There's songs that were Generation X songs because it was Billy Idol's band that became some of his first solo songs. But my 19-year-old nephew is a huge Billy Idol fan, so he has the Generation X vinyls and stuff like that, and he's really into them. But yeah, and people don't get that mixed up with X because X is a completely different punk band, and John Doe's the freaking man. But yeah, so then Blue Murder. This was actually I did put out a link in my shout out video for people to go ahead and jump on the 80s and 90s list. And please, if you go back to, like I said, that video, and you can see, and you want to put it on the list, go ahead. The very first song I put on was a song that I love the transitions in it. I love how it's set up, and John Sykes is an amazing freaking guitarist. Blue Murder, Jelly Roll. Great freaking song. But the song Blue Murder, Riot, Valley of the Kings from Blue Murder, those are all freaking, and then he's playing with freaking Appice and a piece, whatever you want to say. And so it was a freaking great freaking band. As a matter of fact, I've been told by friends in the industry that Blue Murder, that John Sykes is going to be coming back with another Blue Murder, bringing back Blue Murder. I don't know who's all going to be in the band, but that he's presently working on another studio album to come out with a Blue Murder album. And then Loudness, the Beast from the East, which is also Judas Priest freaking album. But then, freaking, I'm sorry, a Dokken album. It's Unleashed from the East is Judas Priest. I don't know why. I need to stop moving around too much. But Loudness, freaking great. Very first concert I ever saw, they were their opening band. And then TNT went on after them. XYZ with Inside Out, another great one. Helix, Rock You, like I said earlier. Heavy Metal Love. Bonham, which was really more early 90s, but still. Wait For You is a great song. That whole album was really freaking good. Very Led Zeppelin-esque, but with weird time signatures. Thunder, Dirty Love, Junkyard. House of Lords is another one that people overlook. Can't Find My Way Home is a freaking phenomenal freaking slower song. Pretty Boy Floyd, MSG, Michael Shangle Group, and then Dirty Looks, King Cobra, Hanoi Rocks. I mean, there's the Choir Boys. I mean, there's a lot of bands that get overlooked in the 80s, stuff like that, and I could go on forever. Thunder Love Walked In. Yes, there you go. And I didn't even talk about Anthrax, really, other than I have a tattoo. But Manowar, not too big here in the States, huge in freaking England. They actually named an album Ode to England to the fact that they actually was that big there. They were big there. Halloween, I Want Out, Dr. Stein, another one of my favorite bands. But Anthrax, I can go. But then you had like Living Color. That was another freaking groundbreaking freaking band that came out. Always the guitarist for them is freaking amazing. Corey, the lead singer, is awesome. And then then you work on that all works into the Pantera era, which is actually early, really super late 80s, early 90s. We can talk about Pantera at another time. But I mean, that pretty much is, I think I've gone the gambit of most of the 80s freaking hair metal rock stuff. I know I've missed a lot of stuff, and people go ahead and call me out. And, you know how you call me out? You go to my last video, the shout-outs video. You go to the link at the bottom. You go ahead and go to that list on YouTube Music, and you put what you think I missed on that list. If that list gets to 500 songs, list gets to 5 songs. As long as it's not just my one song, I'll be happy. So if someone will just put at least one other song on it. Lords of the New Church. Wow, I haven't heard that name in a really long time. Now I'm going to have to go back and start listening. Another band I didn't bring up was Metal Church. That's another band that I really like. During that same era. And then I didn't bring up the 80s Overkill or, some of them other things of thrash metal. This is just one where I did like a hair metal 101, and I threw the reason that I have even any Pantera songs on there is a joke at the end, because of the fact they started out as a hair metal band, and nobody wants to say that one of the hardest bitching bands in the world was ever a hair metal band. So that's kind of a joke on that playlist. But please go check out all my playlists on Spotify. That are all open to the public, and it covers a whole bunch of different genres of metal. And there's disco on there, there's freaking hip hop on there, there's all kinds of stuff. So it's something there for everybody. So go ahead and check that out. The Cult, yeah, that was another one that was hard. You're right. They were very hard to put in a box because so you're talking about a band that opened. On one side was in opening for bands like Eurythmics and some other bands. They were all on the same card, but they also opened up for rock bands, for hard rock bands. Freaking I've seen him open up for Danzig. I've seen him open up for. Heck, I went. They opened up for freaking the Damned. They were on the list. They were one of the bands that played at a Danzig show a couple years ago, and it was the Cult, it was the Damned, it was freaking Entombed, AD, and everything else. And it's like, how does the Cult fit into this? And then you go and you're like, okay, now they kind of do. But yeah, that's another one too. So, so I'm like, wow, I went ahead and did 2 hours anyway, so I'm almost a half hour into Hot Buttery Rolls, and I apologize to Chris if I've stepped on his toes. I don't think I have, because it's 4 people, and the 4 people that are in this I know that at least one of them named Richie will be over at Hot Buttery Rolls anyway. I don't know if anybody else, I think I've seen Cohen in there maybe a couple times or whatever, but I had a lot of fun last night, Cohen. I've had a lot of fun actually now freaking rambling. Nobody came on. My challenge for next week is I know Cohen, you're not going to cut. I think that you're pretty much not going to want to come on and show your face live or whatever like that. But we can do, if you want to just not turn your camera on and just talk and stuff, we can have you do that. But I challenge Richie Z, and some of the other older gentlemen in this stream right now, and pass it on to the other older gentlemen that left the stream, that I want you guys, at least one or two of you guys, to jump on the stream next week, whether it be with the camera or just the voice or whatever. I want you to, okay, you don't have a laptop. Well, you know what, Richie Z, if you got something that'll hold your phone and you can get power to where your phone won't die, the StreamYard link will work on your phone, and boom, it's really easy. Couple taps, you're in the freaking StreamYard. You're on the live. But yeah, so because I really, yeah, so we'll figure out. Okay, so at some point in time, I'm going to have Richie Z on here because I want to pick this man's brain. But also, I would love to friggin' talk to Cohen, because there's a lot of interesting stuff I found out last night, plus about him and during the live, and also he likes a lot of the same music, or he can deep dive into some stuff I really would like to learn more stuff about, but also love to talk about in like the 70s and late 60s and just stuff in general. So if I start a channel, we'll do a weekly. There you go. Hey, if you want to do something like Richie, if you decide to start a channel and you want to do a weekly freaking deep dive into something, or just pick out a band, whatever the deal is, guess what? We just came up with another freaking show that everybody can watch, that we can collab on once a week. And yeah, definitely I would be completely into that. And we can you can drink your I know you drink everything, but you can drink your Japanese whiskeys or your other whiskeys I don't particularly have, Japanese especially. I don't have any Japanese, but we can drink, we can drink some stuff live, talk about freaking music, do a deep dive into some of those, like you bring up bands that I hadn't heard. You can educate me as well as the other people that have never heard these bands and stuff like that. So yeah, I would love to do that shit. Okay, yeah, July would be, like I said, it's 6 or whatever months away. It's fine. If it was tomorrow, or if it's freaking, if you told me it might be 2 years, whenever it happens, I'm on board. So yeah, I'm gonna get this hunting thing figured out. I mean, it shouldn't be doing this with this Canon. Canon's supposed to have like the best autofocus. Yeah, Richie Z's on everybody's channel in the chat, but Richie Z doesn't go live, kind of like somebody else in this chat called Cohen. Nobody know. The only reason I know what Richie Z looks like is because on his Instagram he has pictures of himself. Cohen, I've actually, I don't know. I don't know if you have an Instagram or not. But like I haven't seen a picture of you, so I don't know what you look like. I know that Richie Z has long, beautiful hair, and as a matter of fact, the first time I saw a picture of him, I thought he was one of the members. And I don't know if I told him this, but I thought he was one of the members of Death Angel, because he looks like the rhythm guitarist for Death Angel back in the day, because now he has shorter hair. But yeah, I thought he was. When he said that he lived in the Bay Area and all this other stuff, and I'm like, is Richie Z? I saw a picture of him. I said, holy shit, is Richie Z the guitarist from Death Angel? And I found out it was. I mean, he might still be. He might not even be using his real name. But then I found out there's no Richie Z in freaking Death Angel. So yeah, we talked about this. We've seen you on TV and movies, but like I said, I don't know what you look like to say that to match it up. And you're good at, and you did a really good job at keeping us going last night with that. But yeah, Ted. Yeah. So you look like the other guitarist did. There you go. I know it was one of the guitarists, Ted Aguilar. See, you're just educating me. I know his name. I knew one of the guitarists' name was Aguilar. I couldn't remember their first name, and I couldn't remember which one's which. But I know when I saw the picture of the band, I saw your picture. I'm like, what the hell? And then I looked at the picture because I have a little picture of Death Angel that I have to put up on the wall. And I'm like, wait a second, is that the same guy? And then I said, oh no, there's no Richie Z in Death Angel. So. But yeah, that's hilarious. Um, but hey, if you know how to play guitar as well as he does, and that maybe you can just freaking maybe you can just sub in for him, and then nobody will notice. So I appreciate you guys hung out with me. That the 4 people that are here didn't jump ship and go over to HBR because, like I said before, it's one of those things where, yeah, Death Angels, a Bay Area Cali band. Um, they're part of that group of Testament, Exodus, Metallica after they moved to the Bay, and Death Angel. That's kind of like the Bay Area Big Four. Um, so yeah, but yeah, so yeah, I know Hot Buttery Rolls is still going. He just started a half hour ago or whatever like that. So I know he'll still be going, and I'll jump over there in a second. But I appreciate you guys for sticking around with me. Thank you for listening to me ramble about freaking start out trying to talk about hair metal, and then it turned into deep dives in the 60s and 70s, and then so like Richie said, I covered like 5 decades. I didn't really get into the 2000s part of it, but okay, yeah, 60s through 90s, there's 4 decades right there. But yeah, I appreciate y'all, and until next time, Possessed. Yeah, okay, Possessed is the original freaking evil band from the freaking Bay Area, as they like to. We didn't even get into freaking Merciful Fate or any of that stuff from the 80s. People don't realize is that who they were from the 80s and stuff. That's another deep dive in a different type of genre at some point in time. There's plenty of stuff to talk about in metal, so I'll always have something to talk about. There's always something in rock and everything else. So luckily, I have plenty of things to talk about. So yeah, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and end this. Cohen, I appreciate the fact of what you did for Ken last night. I appreciate the fact that you're in here with me today. You could have just taken the day off and just slept and freaking relaxed and everything else, but you're here with me talking about music, and I appreciate that. Richie Z, I love you. You freaking have been around, we've been around the chats for a while together and everything else. Brother from another mother. And then John Peach, this is the first time I've noticed your name in the chat. I'm sorry I hadn't already shouted you out prior to this, but thank you for being one of the people that hung around. And next week's going to be a little different for you guys, for me and for everyone else. I will probably my shout out video will go out on Wednesday, like it's supposed to this week. I'll probably put out a different video about a couple other things. I'm probably going to do 2 regular videos, and then I will be going live next Saturday. It might be early, it might be late, it might not be. I'll make sure everybody knows by like Wednesday or Thursday what's going to happen next Saturday, because the Trooper Memorial streams are going on Friday. So Matt's moving ADHD Whiskey to Saturday. So we'll figure out those time slots and everything else so that people can be able to watch both of us if they want to watch both of us. And then if Chris, I don't know if Chris is going to be doing the late show for a while. I haven't talked to him really, but if he does not do the late show on Wednesday, I will probably be doing that too, except for my plans are not to do 6 hours every time I do a late on Wednesday. I do have to eventually go back to work at some time. So I'll, if I can do it, I try to keep it to a couple hours at the most, but we'll see what happens. Things change. I wasn't going to be on freaking a 12-hour stream last night and ended up doing, being there. So, but as I always say, thank you for watching. If you aren't subscribed, please click the button. Please leave comment. Please leave a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Any kind of interaction helps out. I'm not going to be in the trending at any point anytime soon, but hey, I can use whatever I can use. All my contact information is in the About tab on my channel. Also, if you want to support the channel in any way, my PayPal and Venmo links are there. If you don't, okay, you don't. But it's just there just in case somebody decides that they want to go ahead and support the channel. Appreciate every one of you. I will see you later. See you on the other side. If anybody can tell me what song that references in Aussie, maybe I might be able to send. Maybe I might send him a little sampler pack. DM me on Instagram with the answer.